Stop saying these 5 toxic phrases to your adult children. They hurt more than you think. There comes a moment in life when the noise starts to settle. The house is quieter, the routine a little slower, and the faces that once needed your constant attention now live lives of their own. Your children, once so small, always nearby, have grown up. They've become adults with their own schedules, their own families, their own worries. And while the role of parenting may have shifted, the love that never changes. But sometimes, without even realizing it, the way we try to connect with our adult children can build walls instead of bridges. It's not from a place of malice, it's love. Deep, unconditional love. It's fear too, fear of losing relevance, fear of being left out, fear that the years of effort might not have been enough. So we speak to guide, to help, to hold on. But in the process, some of the things we say land differently than we expect. What was meant as a moment of honesty or concern can be heard as judgment. What was meant to express longing might sound like guilt, and those words, those small, seemingly harmless phrases, can start to weigh heavily on relationships that we hold most dear. This isn't about blame, it's about awareness. It's about recognizing the impact of our words in this chapter of life where connection matters more than ever. You've lived, you've loved, you've sacrificed. You carry decades of wisdom, and your voice still holds immense power. Power to nurture, power to encourage, power to heal. But that power needs to be wielded with care, especially when speaking to those you love the most. So today, we're going to talk about 5 phrases, 5 specific things that can come out quickly, often in moments of frustration, loneliness, or even love, but can quietly damage your relationship with your adult children, not because the words themselves are inherently evil, but because of what they imply. And more importantly, because of how they're heard. As we walk through each one, I invite you to reflect, not with guilt, but with openness. This isn't about being perfect. It's about staying connected. It's about continuing to be a source of wisdom, love, and inspiration for your children, even now, especially now. Let's begin. Number 1. After all I've done for you. It usually slips out in moments of hurt or frustration. Maybe your child forgot your birthday. Maybe they didn't return your call for days. Maybe they made a decision that completely goes against the values you tried to teach them. And suddenly the words rise up like a tide you can't hold back. After all I've done for you. Let's pause right there. At its core, that phrase comes from a deeply human place. A place of hurt, of disappointment, of feeling unseen, because you have done a lot. You sacrificed. You put their needs above your own more times than anyone could count. You were the steady force, the protector, the provider, the one who stayed up all night worrying, praying, waiting. You've earned the right to feel what you feel. But here's where it gets tricky. When you say, after all I've done for you, it shifts the conversation. It stops being about the present and becomes a transaction from the past. Your love becomes a bill that now feels like it needs to be paid. Whether that's your intention or not, your adult child doesn't just hear your pain, they hear a lifetime of love now labeled as a debt. And most people, especially your children, don't want to feel like they owe the most important person in their life something they can never truly repay. It creates a weight, a quiet, invisible burden. One that says, "You're disappointing me, and I can't help but count the ways I gave, and you didn't return." That weight doesn't create closeness. It creates distance. You're not wrong for feeling hurt. You're not wrong for wanting appreciation. That's human. But there's a difference between being valued and being repaid. What your children can offer now, emotionally, mentally, even physically, won't always match the depth of what you gave. That doesn't mean they don't love you. It just means life is complicated, and everyone is fighting their own battles, often quietly. Instead of reaching for that phrase, try reaching for the feeling underneath it. If you're feeling forgotten, say so. If you're feeling hurt, express that honestly. But say it from a place of vulnerability, not guilt. Try something like, "I really miss hearing from you. It makes me feel like I'm not part of your life anymore." That invites conversation. That opens a door. You've already given so much. But here's something powerful. You're still giving. Every word you speak now can be a gift of peace, of healing, of understanding. When your children feel safe around you, not indebted to you, they'll want to come closer. And sometimes, closeness is the most meaningful reward for everything you've done. Number 2, you never call anymore. It often slips out with a sigh wrapped in a half smile, or maybe with a little chuckle to soften the sting. You might not even mean it as a jab. Just a passing comment, a quiet truth. But that small sentence carries a heavy message. You never call anymore. Now let's sit with that for a second. On the surface, it's an observation. A longing, really, because you miss them. You remember when they'd run through the door after school, or call you up just to ask for advice, or sit across from you at the kitchen table telling you every detail of their day. And now, days turn into weeks. The phone stays quiet. You wonder what's going on in their lives, and even more, you wonder why they don't seem to be wondering about yours. So yes, that sentence is coming from a place of love. But here's the thing, on the receiving end, it rarely sounds like love. To your adult children, it can feel like a guilt trip, dressed up as concern. And guilt doesn't invite connection. It actually pushes people further away. In your mind, you're saying, "I miss you." But what they often hear is, "You're not doing enough. You're failing me." That hurts. Especially when they're likely stretched thin, balancing careers, kids, bills, health, responsibilities you may not even be aware of. When they do finally reach out, they want warmth, reassurance, relief. Not a reminder that it's already too little, too late. And here's where things get real. That phrase starts to train them. It turns every phone call into a performance review. So instead of calling when they have 10 minutes to share something funny, they hesitate because they don't want to be scolded. They don't want to feel like they've already disappointed you before the conversation even starts. That's not what you want. You want connection. You want to be part of their life, not just as an obligation, but as a joy. And the good news is, you still can be. Try this instead. Be the safe place. When they do call, meet them with joy, not judgment. Let the conversation be light sometimes, silly even. Show them that being around you is something that refuels them, not drains them. Say things like, "I love hearing your voice, it makes my day," or "It's always good to catch up, no matter how long it's been." That kind of response, it draws people back in. You have more influence than you think, not through pressure, but through presence, through being the one they know will greet them with kindness, not guilt. Over time, that energy becomes magnetic. Yes, you miss them, and they probably miss you too. But connection doesn't grow from obligation. It grows from warmth, from grace, and from knowing that no matter how long it's been, your love is still open, still waiting, still unconditional. And sometimes, the best way to hear from someone is to become the kind of person they can't wait to talk to. Number 3, when I was your age. This one. It often comes from a well-meaning place, a moment of reflection, a desire to connect through experience. You see your child struggling, making choices you wouldn't have made, or expressing frustration over things that to you seem, well, a little soft. So you reach for the comparison, not out of judgment, but out of memory, out of pride. When I was your age, I was already working 2 jobs. We didn't complain, we just got it done. Or when I was your age, we didn't have all this technology. We had to figure it out the hard way. And just like that, the space between you widens. Let's be honest, you have every right to be proud of the life you built. You've been through things your children will never fully understand. You've known hardship, sacrifice, and perseverance in a way that shaped you into the person you are today. You want them to have that same strength. You want them to push through, to toughen up, to not take the easy way out. That's not wrong. That's love. But here's the catch. When you say, "When I was your age," what your adult children often hear is, "You're not doing enough. Your struggles aren't real. You're weak." And that's painful. Because while the world you came up in demanded a certain kind of resilience, the world they're living in now asks for a different kind. The stressors might not look the same, but they are no less real. They're facing a fast-paced, pressure-heavy world filled with different challenges: mental health struggles, economic instability, social comparison, digital burnout, and the constant flood of information. It's not easier, it's just different. So instead of feeling understood, your child feels dismissed. Instead of drawing strength from your story, they feel shamed by it. The moment that was supposed to bring perspective ends up building a wall. But here's the beautiful thing. Your story does matter. Your wisdom is valuable. And your life experience can be a powerful source of encouragement when it's offered as a bridge, not a measuring stick. Try shifting how you share. Instead of leading with comparison, lead with curiosity. Ask them about what they're going through before offering your own experience. And when you do share, do it with empathy. You know, hearing what you're dealing with reminds me of something I went through at your age. It was different in some ways, but I remember how hard it felt. Can I tell you about it? That changes everything. It invites connection. It gives your child a chance to see you, not just as a parent, but as a fellow human being who's walked a road of pain, growth, and perseverance. And it allows your story to do what it's meant to do: inspire. Remember, your life isn't a measuring tape. It's a lighthouse. Not something to judge by, but something to guide with. And when you offer your past as a light, not a lecture, you create a space where your children can grow, learn, and even better, come to you not out of guilt, but out of genuine respect. Because at the end of the day, the legacy you leave isn't just in the hard things you survived. It's in how you help the next generation walk through their hard things with grace. Number 4. You're raising your kids all wrong. This one lands hard. Sometimes it's said bluntly, other times it's tucked inside a helpful suggestion or a sigh of disapproval. Maybe it shows up as a comment on screen time, discipline, food choices, bedtime routines, or the lack of them. Maybe it sounds like, "In my day, we'd never let kids talk back like that," or "You need to be tougher, or they'll walk all over you." It comes from concern. It comes from love. It comes from a desire to protect, not just your grandchildren, but your own children too. You see them navigating the overwhelming world of parenting, and you want to help. You want to pass down what worked, what mattered, what shaped you into the parent you became. But here's where things get delicate. When you criticize the way your adult child parents, it doesn't just feel like a comment on their choices, it feels like a comment on their worth. Raising kids in today's world is no joke. The rules are different. The culture is louder. The pressures are constant. Your child, now a parent themselves, is trying to find their footing in a world that looks almost nothing like the one they grew up in. And when you step in with judgment, even if it's veiled as advice, it can make them feel inadequate. Worse, it can make them pull away. There's something deeply vulnerable about parenting. Most people are already questioning themselves on the inside. Am I doing this right? Am I messing them up? Am I enough? When those fears are met with criticism, even from a loving parent, the result isn't growth, it's shame. And here's the part that often gets missed. When you criticize your child's parenting, you risk damaging two relationships at once. Not just with your child, but also with your grandkids. Because the more friction there is between you and their parents, the more distance can grow in the family. Nobody wants that. So how do you share your wisdom without overstepping? It starts with trust. Trust that you raised your child well. Trust that even if they do things differently, they're doing their best. Trust that the love you poured into them is now showing up in how they love their own children, even if it looks unfamiliar to you. Then offer support, not control. Say things like, "Parenting looks so different now. It must be a lot to manage. Let me know how I can help." Or, "I admire how patient you are with them. That's something I wish I had more of when I was raising you." Those kinds of words open the door, they soften hearts. And they create space for real conversations where your advice is invited rather than resented. And when your children do ask for your opinion, offer it with humility. Share your stories, your lessons, even your mistakes. Don't try to prove you were right. Just be real. That's the kind of wisdom that sticks. Not the kind that says, "Do it my way," but the kind that says, "Here's what I learned. Take what's useful and leave the rest." Because here's the truth. Your influence isn't in being the loudest voice in the room. It's in being the one they feel safest turning to. You don't need to be in control to be important. You don't need to be right to be respected. And your legacy won't come from pointing out every flaw. It will come from being the steady, loving presence that held the family together. So take a breath. Let go of the urge to correct. And remember, your children aren't trying to erase your way. They're just trying to find their own. And the more you cheer them on, the more they'll keep you close for every part of the journey. Number 5, I guess I'm just a burden now. Few phrases are as quietly devastating as this one. It usually arrives wrapped in sadness, uttered in a moment of vulnerability, maybe after asking for help or being reminded of limitations that didn't used to exist. Sometimes it's meant as a joke. Other times it's whispered in frustration or pain. "Don't worry about me, I'm just a burden now anyway." And even if those words are spoken softly, they land like a thunderclap. At first glance, it might seem like you're simply expressing how you feel. But to your adult children, this phrase hits two sensitive nerves at once: guilt and helplessness. It places them in a position where no matter how much they do, it never feels like enough. It tells them they're failing you, even if they've been doing everything they can. It doesn't pull them closer. It makes them feel like they're drowning in disappointment. And here's the hardest part. It hurts them because they love you. They don't see you as a burden. They see you as the parent who held their hand when they were scared, who stayed up all night when they were sick, who made sacrifices they didn't understand until much later. They want to show up for you. They want to support you. But when you say things like, "I'm just a burden," it makes it feel like their efforts are pointless, and that no matter what they do, you're already lost to this idea of being too much. Let's pause here, because this phrase doesn't come out of nowhere. Getting older is hard. Losing independence, facing physical limitations, needing help with things you used to do without a second thought. It's humbling. It can feel like the world is slowly shrinking, and you're trying to find your place in it all over again. That's not easy. It's okay to feel frustrated. It's okay to feel sad, but you are not a bird. You're a human being who's lived a full life and who still has value, presence, and purpose. Just because you need help doesn't mean you're less. It means you're still in this life, still connected, still worthy of love and care. So instead of framing your needs with shame, try framing them with honesty and trust. Say, "I know it's not always easy helping me with things. I appreciate you being here," or "I'm having a hard time asking for help, but I'm trying to learn how to accept it with grace." Those words invite compassion, not guilt. They show vulnerability, not resignation. And they give your children a chance to show up, not out of obligation but out of love. And here's something powerful. When you choose to stay emotionally present, when you speak with warmth instead of withdrawal, you teach your children something they'll carry forever. You model how to grow older with dignity. You show them what grace looks like in action, and maybe one day when they're facing the same journey, they'll remember how you did it, and they'll walk it with the same quiet strength. You're not a burden. You're a blessing. A living chapter in their story. And your presence, your laughter, your memories, your wisdom is still a gift. Let them carry you sometimes. Not because you've become less, but because love has always been about carrying each other in different ways, at different times. And right now, it's your turn to be held, and that's okay. Conclusion, the words that build or break. Let's take a breath together. We've walked through 5 phrases, 5 short sentences that, while often spoken out of love, pain, or habit, carry the power to shape the emotional landscape of your relationship with your adult children. And maybe as we explored them, something stirred in you. A memory, a moment, a conversation that didn't go the way you hoped. That's okay. This isn't about blame or regret. It's about awakening. About seeing clearly how much your words still matter, maybe even more now than ever. Because while your role as a parent has evolved, your influence hasn't disappeared. In fact, it's deepened. It's taken on a new form, one that is less about instruction and more about inspiration. You see, you are no longer raising your children. You're walking alongside them. They're adults now. They're still growing, still stumbling, still searching, just like you once did. And what they need from you isn't correction, it's connection. Your words can either build a bridge or quietly tear one down. They can open a door or close it before it even has a chance to swing wide. And in a world that already feels noisy and rushed and full of pressure, your voice can be the calm, the comfort, the reminder of where they come from and who they can still count on. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be present. You don't need to have all the right words. You only need to choose them with care. Speak life. Speak love. Speak with the kind of grace you wish someone had shown you at that same age. Your legacy won't be measured by how much advice you gave, or how right you were, or how many "I told you so" moments you collected. It will be measured by how your children feel when they leave your presence. Do they feel safe, encouraged, seen? Do they carry your words as a burden or as a blessing? You still have so much to give. Your presence, your patience, your stories, shared not as warnings, but as wisdom, your humor, your quiet strength, and most of all, your love, spoken in ways that invite your children closer instead of pushing them away. So let this be a turning point, not just in how you speak to your adult children, but in how you see yourself. You are not a burden. You are not forgotten. You are not in the past. You are here. You are needed. You are loved. And the best part? It's never too late to speak new words. Ones that heal, ones that lift, ones that leave a mark that time will never erase.